Hello there, I'm Scotty, you're not. Welcome back to Halloween Horror Month, and we are looking at Are You Afraid of the Dark? Ghost Island. Yes, finally, right? You're finally saying, finally, Scotty, look at this. You did the other ones. I did. I did. I did each part of the Carnival of Doom, and I did this all in one because I just waited for the physical media to come out. But I did these as they aired, and I just did this one. This doesn't have a new DVD sticker unless I was able to get that one off without ripping it. But I was watching these only with my son this time. I didn't watch them on my own like I did with Curse of the Shadows. And so I didn't review, and I said I was going to wait till the physical media came out, just like with Curse of the Shadows. It took over a freaking year. Thanks, Nickelodeon. Thanks, Paramount. But it finally did. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to talk about this one. But this one. So, if they played into the childhood nostalgia of someone who grew up with the show with the second season, like they did with bringing back a certain character. I'm going to talk about Easter eggs at the beginning of this, but they did so with this one too. I mean, they took one of the more infamous stories and expanded upon it, made it a bit different, and actually did a pretty good job with it. Yeah, I'm going to do the Easter eggs first because I think I'm going to forget them. So I'm going to do Easter eggs from all three versions. We start with Carnival of Doom. Of course, the mom in the story that Rachel is telling is the same actress who played Amanda in The Tale of the Lonely Ghost. They also mentioned the Gas the Grinner at the end. I can't really remember anything else from this off the top of my head. I remember more from this one. The background story of how the curse started takes place in the 90s. The girl in the background in the backstory knew someone named Gary. The character Mr. Sardo appears in two different ways. One as a new incarnation who is said to be the son or grandson of the original Sardo, or at least a successor. And the original Sardo, played by Richard Dumont, also makes an appearance in this in a flashback. And then the little kid has a Shandu magic kit, I believe. And then the ending dialogue where they talk about Midnight Society is looked at from the first episode of the original series. And this has some good ones. First and foremost, the little girl at the beginning, her name is Betty Ann, who's one of the original characters of the members of Midnight Society, I should say. Captain Jonas Cutter, the main villain of the Tale of Cutter's Treasure two-parter. The only two-parter, yes, there is a three-parter, but there's only one two-parter. I didn't say multi-parter, I said two-parter. The Tale of Cutter's Treasure. Jonas Cutter appears here. He's a bit different. He's not a big, angry black man played by, I forget his name. Charles S. Dutton. No, he's a bit different. I'm not going to spoil anything because there's spoilers in it, but he does appear. In the opening to the last episode, there are two Easter eggs. One of the girls says that she and her friend stole the nose off the clown and never gave it back. That's a nod to Tale of That in the Dark. And the other girl, the black girl, says that she has a crush on someone named Luke McCoy, who is this guy from the Curse of the Shadows season. I don't know if that means that there's a connection or if they just wanted Easter eggs. And then the dialogue at the end of this one is taken from the opening of The Tale of Cutter's Treasure. which, of course, gets me. They did a good job. Dean Israelite came back to do this one after doing the Carnival of Doom. Jeff Wadlow did this one, Curse of the Shadows, which amazes me because his 2 movies that he directed, they do not impress very much. Those being, of course, Blumhouse's Truth or Dare and Fantasy Island. I like Fantasy Island more than Truth or Dare, but they're both not very good films. But he does a very good job with this. I don't know. This may still be the best season, but Ghost Island tells the tale of 4 friends who arrive on an island for a vacation. What was that? This is the girl, but I'll get back to it. For a vacation, they needed time off. One of the girls had recently lost her twin sister, and they are taking a bit of a vacation when they find out that there may be ghosts at this hotel linked to a mysterious room 13 that doesn't really exist. So we start off in 1983 with a family, a woman and her 2 children, one of which is the daughter named Betty Ann, and the lady at the counter refuses to give her the key to room 13, so the little girl, Betty Ann, steals it. They go in there, and spooky stuff happens, and we cut to now. I would have just started with them in a boat on the way to the island. There's a lot of exposition leading into it. This thing is 4 parts. It's 3 hours and 17 minutes long without commercials. 4 hours with commercials. I don't know. There are some times that there is filler. It seems like it goes a little bit long, but it does work overall as a 4-part. I mean, this was 6 parts. So, and this is 3 parts. And this works great as 3 parts. And this actually does work in 6 parts, shockingly enough. So, to skip all the little drama things, because they talk about, how Kayla, our main characters are Kayla, and that's it. I know Leo, he's this one. He's the first ever openly gay character in Are You Afraid of the Dark history. So, I mean, they don't focus on it that much. He does have a crush on Max, this character we meet later, but, do they say the names? No, of course not. And there's 2 other characters who I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sorry. I should have looked it up. Kayla and Leo are the ones that we talk about a lot, I guess. But, so they go to the resort, and they are staying in room 14. And Kayla recognizes that there's a room 14 and a room 12, but no room 13. And that night she has what she thinks is a nightmare. She hears someone calling for help. And when she finds like the manager guy, Stanley. And she says that there might be noise coming from that room. And it is not a room, it is a closet. So, yeah, there's that. But it's a closet where room 13 used to be. They also meet Max, someone who is on the island. He tells them, so here's the thing, okay? Each part, but the last part, has a story element to it. They tell a story. Like the first one, it's called The Tale of Room 13. So Max tells the tale of Room 13 back in the 90s, 1996. This bellhop was going to go see Scream with his friend. By the way, though, Scream came out in December of 96. Just putting it out there. I don't know. But he, itchy leg. So, he goes up to check out a distress call in room 13, and he ends up getting taken by something. We don't know what yet. We don't get that information, but something took him. And then so then they decide to go up and look at room 13. And this is when Max starts to recognize things from his story. And he comes to a realization that he's the bellhop. He's a ghost. And it kind of, pans to that. At one point, the African-American girl's phone is taken by Betty Ann. That comes in later. The next part is called The Tale of the Teen Spirit. And does that tell the backstory of Cutter? Or is that another story? I think it is. But we get the backstory. We find that there's a woman named Lucia on the end. Because they find... So, there's a secret floor. Apparently, if you press 2 buttons at the same time, 2 secret buttons at the same time, it takes you to the secret floor that has all this stuff from people that disappeared. There's a camera from the paranormal investigator who happens to be Max's friend from the past, and they even watch the little tape. There are hints, though, that there's something with Max, because they say things like ghosted, and he's like, what? Like, he doesn't know what that means, what ghosted means, right? And he says stuff like, what's the 411? Which is like a very 90s saying, And, when he's like, hey, I got this camera, let's plug it into the TV, where's the TV? And they point over there to a flash screen. I thought it was bigger. And they're like, what? What do you mean? Do they have bigger TVs? This is the special suite. We're supposed to have the biggest one. Oh, yeah, there's much bigger TVs than that. Trying to cover his ass. But, they watch the video, or they watch the tape, the recording tape, and they find out. So they're like, that's a cassette tape, like an audio cassette. They do know about DV tapes, right? I mean, they're not that young. They know what DV tapes are, right? Come on. Stupid Gen Zers. Anyway, by the way, I heard this guy. I'm a millennial. I was raised in the 90s, not the millennium. Apparently, I was born in 87, but I'm technically millennial. I always thought the millennials were the ones born during, late 90s, early 2000s. Because millennial, they're born around the millennium, right? I don't know. I'm an old fart, that's what I am. Anyway, so they start to discover... So Max, in a fit of rage, throws something at the mirror, unleashing the spirit of Lucia. And then the manager comes to the rescue, and he tells him that his name is Stanley Crane, and there have been generations of Stanley Cranes that lived on this island and have protected the hotel from this curse. It's seen earlier on that he knows about the ghost, and he keeps taking mirrors and hide them in the secret room. And earlier, when Kayla was in the secret room with Max, he goes in and looks around, but she's hiding. And he calls Betty Ann out by name, so he knows about the ghosts. But they're trapped in a freezer now and eventually escape. And they decide they have to summon. So this is where we get the story of Cutter. So I feel like that's the Looking Glass, though. Right? So what's the second story, then? The Teen Spirit. What's the Teen Spirit one? I'm trying to think. Because the Looking Glass, I feel like is the... Right? I don't know. We get the story of Jonas Cutter. Jonas Cutter washes on the... And he's a captain, despite the fact that he looks like a teenager, which could just be the point of view of the storyteller. But he meets Lucia, who's also a teenager, and they are... she helps him work on a new boat. and everything, and they fall in love. And he says he's going to go out to sea and he will come back to see her, but he never comes back. And she fears that he died out on the sea, so she borrows a book, the Book of Shadows. Final Easter egg. I forgot to mention that. The Book of Shadows is in this, and it connects everything of all three of these. You see the scorpion and a spell to summon Mr. Top Hat from the first one. You see the two spells from Curse of the Shadows, the Returned and the Protection. And then you see the spell from this one. So, yeah, there's a connection to that. But, I had a bruise or something. Cut myself or something on my finger. It's bugging me. Could be a paper cut, I guess. That's gonna happen. I don't know. But yeah, so they do this spell. You have to light the flame, like a candle. You have to knock once and knock twice, which they go, and then knock twice is. They do that every time, and it bugs me because that's not it. You knock once, you knock twice. That's twice. You do this, knock once, knock twice. That's 3 times you've knocked now, in total. It's frustrating to me, but. And then they say the person's name. So she says, Cutter. And it shows him there. And he can't leave the mirror. So he says, why don't you come in here with me? And she puts her hand on there. And he yanks her in. And he's free to go on and do whatever. Turns out he's been cursed. Yes. Or she's been cursed. To live in the mirror. She's become this La Llorona ghost thingy. Right. So they separate so that 3 of them, or 2 of them, Leo, the black girl, and the other guy, who kind of have a thing for each other. Leo likes Max, but go to dig up the thing, and is Max with them? Because I feel like Max is with them. While Kayla goes with Stanley to the room to set everything up. And while there, Kayla finds out that she will be able to talk to her sister from there. So she decides to just do it. But it's a trick because it's revealed that Stanley is actually Cutter, because when they go to the grave is empty, and then in the reflection, she sees the compass under his shirt because he just wears it around, I guess. Oh, I do like this thing that they do. It's a recurring thing where there's this housekeeper that keeps showing up, and then when they're watching the videotape, they go over the people who were taken, and they show the housekeeper, and she knocks just as they show it, and they realize that she's not, just a housekeeper, she's a ghost. And then they talk about Betty Ann and her family, and then he puts up Max, who flews in everyone. Groby, I'm recording a video. I will talk to you when I'm done, please. Okay? Jesus. Anyways. Scusa. Anyway, so Kayla finds out that he's Cutter, but he tricks her into the mirror, and that's where the last part starts. We get, the little thing, the nod, whatever. So while in there, Kayla is greeted by her sister, who is dead, is a ghost. And it's the same actress, but they signify that they're different people by Kayla having long hair and her sister is always in a ponytail. Yeah, that's how that works. But there's great use of when they're in the same shot, like they do the thing where they someone back of the head and the other one's facing the camera. It looks real good. You go back and forth. You'd almost think that there's 2 girls in the same room. It's been done before, but this is a cheaper way to do it than they use the CGI like in the Flash, but so When the others come back to the room, they are confused as to where Kayla is. Stanley just wants the book, or Cutter wants the book. He wants to put Lucia's soul at rest, but he steals the book and runs into the bathroom. I thought it had to be that one mirror in the room. I don't know. It gets confusing. We'll get there. But he starts the ritual in there, and they realize that Kayla is stuck in the mirror, and she writes on the mirror that Stanley is Cutter. And then they start doing their own ritual to free Kayla, but they're not able to. They do the thing. And then they do it first. They do the thing and they summon her, and then he summons Lucia and traps her in the mirror in the bathroom by saying her name. And then he comes out, blows up the candle, and locks them in the room. I do like, though, while they're in there, Kayla tries to contact them. She plays the Celine Dion song, which is the song that Max was listening to on his headphones. Hey, he's a teenager in the 90s. It's perfectly fine. Okay? It's all coming back to me. All coming back to you. Whatever that song. A lot of 90s nods here too. So, and then she tries using the phone to call. She turns the radio on, and Leo turns it off for some reason. He's like, doesn't make any sense. Why would that song be playing here? Lucia doesn't. It's Lucia. She's trying to mess with us. By the way, I gotta point this out, okay? So, I went into this knowing the twist, knowing everything. The actor they got. So, the actor in the story, when they tell about the story of Jonas Cutter and Lucia, it's not the same actor, obviously, that plays Stanley, because that's going to be a twist. But I noticed something this time, that the actor who's playing him in this story version, like they did with Rachel in the first one, is actually copying the actor's movements and body language that he does. I caught on to it. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, if you didn't know that, you wouldn't be able to catch on to it. You'd be like, oh, that's a weird thing. But knowing that Stanley is Cutter is like, unless you're really smart, which I don't know. But Max puts himself into the mirror so they can rescue Kayla. And as Cutter tries to leave, they summon her. This is a great point. They summon Lucia through the ocean. Yeah. And she drags Cutter in. She comes out. And there's a whoosh, And they go back. They said, oh, we have to save Max. So they go back into the hotel, to the room, but there's no room there anymore. It's a wall. Like, oh, how are we going to get Max back? And I'm like, okay, just go back to the ocean and do what you just did, right? You just go back to the ocean and do what you just did. Nope. Because they're not thinking straight. They just think, yeah. So they get all back to the future on us, because the next day they're sitting on the beach and someone walks up. Are you the Midnight Society? And this guy is like, I need to know how you knew those exact words. I'm like, calm down, dude. They're like, oh, I got this letter. It didn't say specific names. It just said that you'd be sitting by the bonfire. And so it's a letter from Max. And it explains that the hotel, history rewrote itself. The hotel was never haunted. Betty Ann and her family got a room that night in room 13, which was a special room at the time. So I wonder why it was closed up. I guess you could still say, because earlier they said it was a superstition, which is a thing. A lot of hotels, they'll go from floor 12 to 14. Although, just between you and me, that still means that floor 14 is the 13th floor. Just saying. So maybe that's just a thing there, but now it's just a wall instead of a closet. And to be honest, if I were Stanley Cutter man, Why wouldn't I have just built a wall to cover up? If you are trying to make sure that no one can get to the ghosts, right? You want to be alive. You want to do this, whatever. Which, by the way, he must be an immortal now after being freed because I don't know. And I'd like to know where that Stanley Crane come from. Did he kill the real Stanley Crane and take his place at some point? I don't know. But if I were this guy, why wouldn't I do that to begin with so no one can find a wall? You know, storyline wise, it probably would have anyway, but I'm just saying. But yeah. So Max went back to 1996. He went to see Scream, and he thanks them for not spoiling anything, which I'd be like, boyfriend did it. Whatever. But yeah. By the way, so I have an issue. I just thought of this right now. So Max didn't know what a modern TV looked like, but Betty Ann knew that what she took was a phone. They didn't have those kind of phones in 1983. I'm just saying. Right? So, yeah, and like I said, we have a thing on the beach, and everything is almost verbatim, line for line, the opening to Cutter's Treasure. That's why two of us are telling the story tonight. It's her and her sister there, you know, sort of thing. Now, here's the thing. This Back to the Future ending where they bring the note and they read it, it's kind of a cop-out. Now, I understand that Max would have left the island and been gone, whatever. But I would have liked it if Max, even though he wanted to leave, stayed on the island, grew up, and became the manager of the hotel just so he could see them again. And it's like, it's me, you know? But, I don't know. Maybe they just don't want to hire an actor to play the older version of him. I don't know. But this is good. It's technically a TV show, so I can't really give it a rating. But it's good. I would say it's this. I don't know. I still hold Curse of the Shadows as the best one. I think it was the best, better done one. This is good too. I might actually have to make this number 2 just because it's shorter. The extra hour does kind of add a little bit of things. So maybe I wouldn't say worse. These are all very good, but you know. So what are your thoughts on Are You Afraid of the Dark? Yeah. Ghost Island. Then what comes below? Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. They haven't done another one. Everyone wants another season. It's been a year. This was 2022. This came out. It's been a year. Nothing. Now I know there's a strike going on right now, but this is Canadian. So does that count? I don't know. Canadian actors are participating, which baffles me. Why are you? You're not American. I don't know. And you know what also is confusing? They reached an agreement for the Writers Guild of America, but the actors are still striking. Can someone explain this to me? All right. I thought the actors were only out there to support the writers. That they weren't out there for themselves. They're out there supporting the writers. It just seems to me, just what I'm seeing here, is that they're out there supporting the writers, but now the writers got a deal, so the actors are like, okay, you got one. We want a deal now. And that sounds selfish to me, but I just for some reason I got the idea that they weren't out there to strike for themselves. They were striking for the writers so they can get what they wanted. The writers got what they wanted, so that was all over. But people say no, SAG is still striking. I'm like, why? They were only out there to support the writers. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Can somebody help me out? Because I'm just confused. To me, I feel like this whole thing should just be done because it was about the writers, right? And now the actors are like, no, we want money too. It's what it seems like. It's like, okay, we helped them. Now we want money. That's what it seems like. And now video games are going. How do you do that? You got a PlayStation 5 out there with a picket sign? What the hell? I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching. I've been Scotty. See you in the next one.